The Democratic National Convention begins with controversy. The rift between backers of Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders cost the party chair her job. Clinton's new Catholic running mate, how his positions compare with church teaching. The Pope calls for more intense prayer, ISIS already claiming responsibility for some weekend terror attacks. And prepping for World Youth Day. Join us for a report from Krakow. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Monday, July 25th, 2016. Good evening, I'm Brian Patrick in Washington, and just as Democrats begin their convention in Philadelphia, it's been a day of discord. The chair of the Democratic Party steps down and did not gavel in the convention. Political director Lauren Ashburn begins our coverage from the convention in Philadelphia. Lauren?
Brian, unbelievable drama here in the last 20 minutes. The crowd chanting Bernie, 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 with the jeers for Hillary Clinton and the cheers for Bernie. Never seen anything like this. Now, we've seen a lot of controversy. The FBI said Monday it's going to investigate how thousands of Democratic National Committee emails favoring Clinton were hacked. Clinton's campaign says that Russia did it to benefit Donald Trump. Those emails, including one targeting Bernie Sanders' faith, caused chaos on what is supposed to be the party's party. Roll call will be happening shortly. They're going to make Clinton's nomination official. Earlier in the day, Florida delegation booed DNC chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And to top it off, Bernie Sanders supporters are outside protesting in full. The Clinton team needs to hold on to support from his 13 million voters. Today's theme, united together. But this morning, the division within the Democratic Party is clear. A massive email leak shows Democratic National Committee staffers favored Clinton over Bernie Sanders during the primary.
Well, I think it's outrageous, but it is not a great shock to me.
Hours before the DNC started today, Sanders supporters interrupted a delegate breakfast.
All right, everybody now, settle down.
This follows Sunday's protests where thousands of Sanders supporters marched through Philadelphia. The embarrassing emails forced DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz to resign. When the Democratic National Convention ends, so does her tenure. Clinton did not address the email crisis, but earlier today in Charlotte at the Veterans of Foreign Wars Convention, she criticized Donald Trump's foreign policy.
I don't understand people who trash talk about America, who talk about us as being in decline, who act as though we are not yet the greatest country that has ever been created on the face of the earth for all of history.
Clinton also criticized Trump for his self-reliance on national security. She says she will stand by American allies and listen to the advice of military officials. Hillary Clinton's running mate announced over the weekend is Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, a longtime Clinton ally and Roman Catholic. He's a Catholic who says he's personally pro-life, but he has a 100% pro-abortion voting record in the U.S. Senate. That's according to NARAL. And he has rejected attempts to defund Planned Parenthood. Kaine attended Mass the day after he was picked as Hillary's running mate. He spoke with the media as he left St. Elizabeth Catholic Church in Richmond.
We needed some prayers today, and we got some prayers, and we got some support, and it really feels good.
Kaine supports same-sex marriage. She signed an amicus brief to the Supreme Court saying the Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional. Kaine also co-sponsored legislation to restore the contraceptive coverage requirement guaranteed by Obamacare. Now, a new Knights of Columbus Marist poll finds Americans strongly support restriction on abortions, even though they identify as pro-choice. Nearly 80% of Americans support substantial restrictions on abortion, limiting it to, at most, the first 3 months of pregnancy. More than 60% of Americans oppose taxpayer funding for abortion, and nearly 80% want abortion clinics to be held to the same standard as other outpatient surgery centers. Joining me now is Elaine Kaine. She's a member of the Democratic National Committee, a superdelegate, and author of Primary Politics, Everything You Need to Know About How America Nominates Its Presidential Candidates. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I understand that this is the most progressive platform that has ever passed for the Democrats in history, and it says that abortion is, quote, core to women's, men's, and young people's health and well-being. Isn't that isolating pro-life Democrats like you?
Well, I think that there are many of us who are practicing Catholics who are Democrats. Nancy Pelosi, the majority leader in the House, Tim Kaine, the vice presidential nominee, who have always felt that abortion restriction should not be a public policy issue, that it was bad public policy, even though we have our own personal feelings that are consistent with the teachings of the church. So we differentiate between our own personal feelings and the public policy.
Sure. You know, you were on the DNC committee, and it used to say that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. And it no longer says rare. Why not?
I think that this platform moved to the left. Unfortunately, I think it's unfortunate that they left out the word rare, because I think it is a tragedy. Most women think so when they've had an abortion. And so I think that our goal really should make it rare, but also to keep it legal.
Right. Okay, Elaine Kaine, thank you so much for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you for the rest of the week.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Speaking tonight, First Lady Michelle Obama, Brian, who plans to talk about family. Bernie Sanders, he will talk about the controversies that are going on down here. I think you could hear people screaming Bernie. Later in the newscast, we'll be back with a look at what Republicans are doing here. It involves a boxing ring, plus analysis from our political panel. Brian.
Thank you, Lauren Ashburn in Philadelphia. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. Gunfire erupts overnight at a nightclub hosting a party for teenagers in Fort Myers, Florida. 2 teens died, at least 17 other people were wounded. Fort Myers police say the shooting was not an act of terror. The interim police chief says 3 persons of interest are in custody and they are looking for others. 4 people were hospitalized, 2 of them in critical condition. Germany steps up security at airports, train stations, and other public areas following a series of attacks. 3 recent attacks carried out by migrants, and Wyatt Goolsbee joins us with more.
Brian, Germany's interior minister urges citizens not to panic, saying they should continue to, quote, lead our free lives. This comes as ISIS claims responsibility for the latest suicide bombing, which has left Germans in fear.
The southern German city of Ansbach is in shock after a suicide bomber struck outside a music festival. Police say more than a dozen people were injured Sunday night when the 27-year-old Syrian migrant blew himself up. Jonah Windenberg was at the concert when the bomb went off.
We were so scared. My one friend, she was shaking the whole time, crying. We couldn't sit still. We had tried sitting there waiting, but we just had to keep moving because she was so scared.
German police have identified the suspect as Mohammed D. He is the only death reported in Sunday's bombing. They say he entered Germany 2 years ago and was slated to be deported to Bulgaria after his bid for asylum was rejected. The bombing heightens concerns about how Germany can deal with the 1 million migrants who entered the country last year. Professor Daniel Serwer with the Middle East Institute says he understands why Germans are afraid, but he urges against taking drastic action like shutting down the border.
As horrible as these incidents are, they are threats to relatively small numbers of people, certainly even compared to 9/11, compared to a real war. We shouldn't exaggerate the threat, because exaggerating the threat can cause us to do things that will make it worse rather than better.
Aber ich denke, das wichtigste Mittel.
The mayor of Ansbach says her city will continue to help refugees. They both agree that when it comes to fighting radicalization, integration is key.
I think it takes time to learn how to do this effectively, how to screen people effectively, but also how to integrate people effectively.
Police say they found cell phone video of the suspect pledging allegiance to ISIS before he tried to get into the concert. They also learned that the man was treated by a psychiatrist twice for attempted suicide and had been on drugs. Brian?
Thank you, Wyatt Goolsby. And Pope Francis condemns the attack in Germany and another in Afghanistan.
Il nostro animo è ancora una volta scosso.
The Holy Father saying our souls are once again shaken by sad news of deplorable acts of terrorism and violence. He told those gathered for Sunday's Angelus in St. Peter's Square, our prayers must be that much more insistent. An unpredictable wildfire destroys more than a dozen houses and fills the skies north of Los Angeles with heavy smoke. Roughly 10,000 people were evacuated when unexpected winds stirred up the blaze. Flames are tearing through brush, withered by days of 100-degree temperatures and years of drought. The number of firefighters on the lines is now up to nearly 3,000. More than 51 square miles have burned, at least 18 homes destroyed. Since that blaze broke out Friday afternoon, a man's burned body was found in the fire zone this weekend, and his death is under investigation. 7 Russian swimmers are barred from the Summer Olympics. At least 3 are linked to recent allegations of a major doping cover-up by Russian authorities. The International Olympic Committee ruled Sunday that Russian athletes with previous doping bans would be banned from the Games in Rio this summer. That followed the IOC's decision not to ban the entire Russian team over allegations of state-sponsored doping. Coming up, the Vatican tackles the global issue of human trafficking at sea. And we're back to the Democratic National Convention. Today, July 25th, we celebrate the feast day of St. James the Greater. The Apostle of Jesus is the patron saint of Spain. Thank you for joining us this Monday evening. I'm Brian Patrick. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte declares a unilateral ceasefire with communist guerrillas effective immediately. He's asking the rebels to do the same and work toward ending decades of violence.
We are going nowhere, and it is getting bloodier by the day.
In his first State of the Nation address before Congress, Duterte also focused on his battle against illegal drugs. He continues to threaten drug dealers with death. An effort to galvanize the global response against human trafficking at sea converges on Rome. The first meeting of Compass, the coalition of organizations and ministries promoting the abolition of slavery at sea, brings together experts from faith-based and private sectors and the governments to address this growing problem.
We see here the important role that a variety of stakeholders have, so that you have not only governments coming together to address this problem, but also civil society, religious organizations, the church being a critically important advocate in this, increasing attention and our understanding and awareness of the problem.
The UN reports that more than 240,000 migrants have reached Europe's shores so far this year. Some fall victim to modern-day slavery in their search for a better life.
In your villages you don't have anything, you say yes immediately, and when they arrive on the fishing vessel they realize that what was a beautiful dream was a nightmare.
The 4-day conference focuses on creating action plans at church and state levels. It is aimed to unify the effort to end slavery at sea. Back now to EWTN News Nightly political director Lauren Ashburn at the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Lauren?
Well, it's not just Democrats who are gathering here, along with just the Bernie and the Hillary supporters here. The Republicans are here with some Hillary baggage. Inside, they have a lot of things that they're giving out, including this tiny little boxing glove that says "Fighting for Herself." Jason Calvi joins me now with more on the Republicans. Jason.
Lauren, we're in an industrial part of town, about 15 minutes from the DNC Stadium. This is a martial arts and boxing facility. Come on in. And here it is that Republicans are slamming Hillary Clinton's economic history. Rocky, the movie series, has been filmed in this city since 1976. Rocky V actually taped some of it right here in this building, and it's right here today that Republicans are blasting the DNC email leaks.
What we want to show is the hypocrisy and lack of trust that people have with Hillary Clinton. She rigged the system for herself. In 2008, she ran and couldn't win, so they rigged the system, and the emails that have come out from the Democratic National Committee prove that. I think what we want to do is remind the American people that Hillary Clinton has one set of rules and standards for herself and one for everybody else.
Republican leaders say a vote for Clinton Kaine is a vote for higher taxes, increased government, and more abortion.
They would have 5 justices on the court that believe the Constitution is whatever they want to say it is. And that means a secular progressive view, which means an abandonment of the foundational principles of our country, the Constitution, the Declaration, the idea of God-given rights, the idea of rights coming from God and are innate because of the dignity of each human person.
It's all part of the RNC's attempts to counter the high-profile DNC events here in Philadelphia. This is a game they call rigged. If you play for Hillary Clinton, you can get your beanbag in the hole, but for Bernie Sanders, no luck. They say it's all the rigged system favoring Hillary Clinton as they go after those Sanders supporters. Lauren?
Thank you, Jason Calvi reporting. Thank you. Tim Carney is senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner. Melinda Henneberger is editor-in-chief of Roll Call. Welcome again back to same place, different city, or same time, different city. First of all, what do you make, Tim, of all of this chaos on the floor?
So yeah, the Bernie Sanders delegates are booing every time Hillary Clinton's name is mentioned. They were booing Bernie earlier at an event I saw at the Pennsylvania Convention Center when he said, "Vote for Hillary." This was not the unified party, the scripted delegation convention that we thought. This is pretty shocking.
It really is. Melinda, what is your take on the email leak and Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigning? Is that revving up this crowd even more?
Well, I think it is, especially given that she practically had to be dragged kicking and screaming off the stage. I mean, she was not giving up without a fight. And when we see what was in those emails, the fact that she refused to go until she was absolutely forced has made this, I think, a lot more dramatic than it had to be.
Tim, Democrats are really moving more and more to the left, it seems. And if you've looked at this platform, you see that it's 100% pro-abortion, despite the fact that the majority favor some restrictions. What do you think is going to be the reaction from voters?
Well, so this is what I was talking to delegates on the floor, where the Bernie delegates were happy that they have the most progressive platform they've ever had, as they say. And I say, is that where the rest of the party is? They think the problem is that there haven't been Democratic Party leaders to lead the country in that direction. And they think that Bernie Sanders type politicians atop the Democratic Party can lead the public in that direction, both on the economic issues and on the abortion issues.
And on the abortion issue. Melinda, what are you hearing? Are you hearing the same thing that Tim is?
I honestly couldn't hear Tim, so I can't tell you.
It is so loud in here. It really is. Let's move on to something else then. What does Hillary have to do this week to overcome this division?
I don't know if Hillary can overcome this division. I think that Donald Trump obviously goes a long way to, as someone just said from the stage, getting Democrats to feel like she's the alternative they want to him. But I have never seen a nominee booed at her own his own nominating convention. So I think that the rift is real and enduring.
It's something to remember. They booed Ted Cruz. They didn't boo Donald Trump in Cleveland.
Ever. Right. No, you're right, Tim. Tim, thank you so much. Tim Carney is senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner. Melinda Henneberger, editor-in-chief of Roll Call.
Up next, trip to Poland. Attention turns to World Youth Day and viewing politics through a Catholic lens. Dr. Matthew Bunson joins us from the Democratic National Convention. Thank you for joining us for EWTN News Nightly. I'm Brian Patrick. Polish law enforcement officials say 48-year-old Iraqi man has been arrested on charges of possessing small amounts of explosives. Sunday's arrest comes just days before Pope Francis arrives in Poland for World Youth Day. The main papal mass is expected to draw 1.5 million people. Poland's interior minister insists it will be safe. Thousands of Catholic pilgrims visit the Auschwitz and Birkenau concentration camps in Poland today. They're converging on Krakow for World Youth Day. Of course, Pope Francis arrives Wednesday for 5 days and plans a personal pilgrim to Auschwitz. He will meet with Poles who helped Jews escape from the Nazis. Life on the Rock host, Father Mark Mary, a Franciscan missionary of the Eternal Word, joining us. Father Mark, you went to Auschwitz and Birkenau today. I'm sure that the celebration there in Krakow, this is really a sobering experience.
It was. There was a lot of World Youth Day pilgrims there going over to see it. But yeah, to see those places, the reality of them, we see them in our movies all the time back home. But especially Birkenau, they had the rubble of some of the gas chambers, and they had the rail line that went in there and through this gate, and the size of it was big. I mean, at its height, I think it was housing like 90,000 people. Over 1 million people died in that whole Auschwitz-Birkenau system. So it was something to see that.
What is the mood there in Krakow ahead of the Holy Father's visit, and of course with the history of St. John Paul II surrounding you?
Yeah, I can't help but expect great things here. I mean, John Paul, of course, started the World Youth Days, with his inspiration and his zeal and his love for the youth. And so I know he's going to be present here in a special way, interceding for the young people. And it's a big city. It's bigger than I thought it was. And it's starting to fill up, though. We are seeing more security. They're blocking off more roads. And so you never know, because the country's so Catholic, how many people are going to show up at some of these events that aren't even registered, So I'm expecting it to be pretty chaotic.
So with all of the attacks recently in Europe, I'm sure the security there is very tight. What did you run into personally? What did you encounter?
Well, just today, they had shut down some roads, made access to things a little inconvenient. Every now and then you'll see a policeman with an Uzi or something. So it's, they're playing, they're serious, and I think everyone is concerned about it. But we're hopeful and trusting in the Lord, and I think it'll be okay.
I'm sure it will. We thank you, and we appreciate you joining us. We hope you'll stay safe. Father Mark Mary, thanks for being with us.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Our faith influences our view of presidential politics. Lauren Ashburn continues our coverage from the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Lauren?
Brian, there are a lot of important issues at stake in this election. We're hearing the floor here chant LGBT. Many of those issues deal with fundamental teachings of the church. Dr. Matthew Bunson is a Catholic theologian, historian, and senior contributor to EWTN. Thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be with you.
Tim Kaine has reignited a big discussion of abortion and the Catholic Church teaching. And we had a woman on earlier who says that she's pro-life, but she's a Democrat. Can you be pro-life and a Democrat?
Right. Well, the church's response is the same one that it gave to Mario Cuomo in 1984 when he first coined the phrase that I am personally opposed to abortion, but politically pro-choice. It is a dichotomy that runs directly in contradiction to the teachings of the church. As an elected official, as anyone, you have an obligation to do everything you can to support the dignity of the human person from conception to natural death. And that includes advocating life, working for life.
So they say that they're pro-life Catholics, but they are not acting in accordance with the Catholic Church, is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
What's the perspective of the U.S. bishops? Is that it's exactly the same?
The bishops have a particular task as the teachers of the faith to help political leaders, but all Catholics, to form their conscience properly. And that means understanding the whole of the teachings of the church regarding life.
Democrats for Life say that U.S. abortion law makes many progressive countries in Europe, with their threshold, which is at 12 to 13 weeks, look like pro-life radicals.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're seeing across the world right now is a real turn toward very radicalized abortion laws. And the function of any authentic Catholic politician, of any authentic Catholic, is to do everything we can to promote life in all senses.
All right. Dr. Matthew Bunson, theologian, senior EWTN contributor. That does it for us today from Philadelphia, Brian. We will see you again tomorrow and all week with more. Back to you.
Lauren Ashburn from our team in Philadelphia and here in Washington, D.C. I'm Brian Patrick. Good night. God bless you.